Thank you. Today, local lawmakers introduced the Equal Rights Amendment with the goal to add it to the state's constitution.
This would give constitutional protections for equal rights in Wisconsin, modeled after the federal government's amendment. New at 10, Samantha Cavalli here's why Democratic lawmakers are bringing this forward now.
If we had an equal rights amendment in our state constitution, millions of Wisconsinites would gain a right back. One we deserve and one that we will not stop fighting for until we get it again.
In a news conference Monday hosted by the Midday Women's Alliance in partnership with members of the Women's Action Coalition, lawmakers introduced the Wisconsin State Equal Rights Amendment to be added to the state's constitution. The ERA would amend the Constitution to guarantee equal rights on the basis of sex, gender identity, race, color, sexual orientation, and more.
Think about how many of us can pick one of those things and think of a scenario where we could be discriminated against.
State Representative Lee Snodgrass, as well as State Representative Lori Palmieri, are leading the charge as co-authors of this bill. Representative Palmieri says it's about time a bill like this is passed.
I have to say, after more than 50 years, it's embarrassing that any Wisconsinite has fewer rights than another.
The Federal Equal Rights Amendment passed in 1971, with Wisconsin ratifying it in 1972. However, an amendment was never passed to add it to Wisconsin's constitution. The Equal Rights Amendment was introduced in 2021 in Wisconsin, but it did not pass. Jean Roberts with League of Women Voters says it's not a bipartisan issue, it's a gender equity issue.
This isn't just about women, it's about LGBTQ people, it's about people of color, it's equal rights for everybody.
The amendment needs to pass through 2 sessions and go to a public referendum to be voted into law. We reached out to multiple Republican lawmakers for their reactions to this bill, but we have not heard back. In Appleton, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.